Hello, my great and wonderful people. How una day today? I hope all of una day well. Today we get this video for our table. Want to be say one quickly the review to you concerning the things want to be say it happen right now for inside this country, Nigeria. For majority of una want to be say it believe say una know Amebola Tinibu. I beg make una come close. Make una come use una ear listening to this very interview when it be say foreign journalists, American journalists, when it be say they know the history of Amebola Tinubu, come here waiting that they talk. The interview when it be say they grant to David Hundeyin, I believe if una see this man for this interview, una will believe say because of say this man don't they expose Amebola Tinubu for a long time. Now he make can collaborate with these very people. No. You first of all get patient and listen to the full details of this video. You will understand who Amebola Tinubu really be. Alright, I not come here to talk much. I'll just leave you, make you use your ear, hear everything by yourself. I'll come back for more.
So is the election results itself in dispute separate from the question of was he a legitimate candidate?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So one of the key bone of contention is that the electoral umpire didn't follow his own rules in conducting the election. So the Electoral Amendment Act of 2022 stated that results will be transmitted electronically from the polling units to the central server. Because previously, this thing that we call vote rigging, the basic method of vote rigging was, stealing ballot boxes, stuffing ballot boxes, that sort of thing. So the electronic voting machines were supposed to stop that. So the idea is people vote, the votes are transmitted, the results are transmitted instantly, in full view of everyone. It's transparent, and the election is not credible. That was the plan. In reality, what happened on election day was, so there were three elections on the day. So there's the presidential election, there's the senatorial election, and then there's the House of Representatives election. So the House of Representatives and the senatorial election went by without a problem. Those results are transmitted electronically, no problem. And then for the presidential election, all of a sudden, there was apparently a glitch with the server, and the results were not transmitted. So they were then collated by hand, and then all sorts of magic took place, which is exactly the sort of thing that electronic vote transmission was designed to avoid. Right. So so this was possibly, because of smartphones and the internet, there was a plethora of evidence to show how all sorts of manipulation was taking place. So we were floating around Twitter, you would see pictures of result sheets where the actual results have been X'd out, and someone scrolled another result of it, like really amateurish, really cartoonish. So all of this was actually taken to court, and the appeal court delivered a verdict 2 weeks ago, which basically, in my opinion, turned the law on its head. What the appeal court said was, even though you tendered all of this evidence in court, we're not going to. The evidence wasn't properly tendered. So basically, on the basis of a technicality, we're not gonna answer this case. Basically, so and that's a very common thing in Nigeria. Cases are very rarely heard on their merits. They're usually heard on the basis of some technicality or the other. So, for example, with regard to the disqualification of Tinibu as a candidate, which was also in contention, one of the strongest cases was actually the fact that he didn't declare that he had additional citizenship. So under electoral law in Nigeria, first of all, if you have dual citizenship, you're not actually allowed to run for president.
Where is his other citizenship? The U.S.?
Yeah, Guinea.
Oh, Guinea. Okay.
Yeah. So
is it a weird place for him to have a dual citizenship?
Really weird. Really weird. And
that is a narco state.
It is, and what made it even weirder is that the passport he holds apparently is a diplomatic passport. So that's just.
It almost sounds. If you want to spin the tale out, you could be plausible that he's been a part of a cog in some very large criminal operation for a long time, and now they've gotten him to be the president.
So all of this was put before the courts, and the court said, "Oh yes, even if he has alternative citizenship, the evidence that he has this additional citizenship wasn't submitted a certain way, so it's been struck out." Yeah. So
the Supreme Court has no remedy. So the legal infrastructure is fairly weak.
Yeah, I mean, so that was the appeal court. So it's going to the Supreme Court now, but the outcome is not going to be any different, because that's how Nigerian judges behave. The Nigerian judiciary is not independent. That's just the reality. So it's not going to be any different.
How long is the presidential term? 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
So it looks like you'll probably have him for 3 more years, right?
Assuming something doesn't happen, because bear in mind that this is sub-Saharan Africa. So yes, I think this is the longest period in Nigeria's history without a military coup. It's been 24 years without military involvement in government. That could change at any time.
Is the military more trustworthy?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. What we do know for a fact is that the upper ranks, the upper echelons, and the officer ranks, the lower ranks, there's a huge split between them. So the lower ranks are not happy with things going on, but the upper ranks are very happy with status quo. So that's a very dangerous situation.
So you could have a military that's not even cohesive.
Exactly.
And Nigeria is a giant country that was composed of different ethnic groups that probably shouldn't even have been in the same country, really, maybe, right?
Well, ideally, no. But, the British, in their colonial wisdom, knew what they were doing.
They were just drawing lines based on latitude and longitude and rivers and stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was that benign, but the British were not that benign. The real reason, one of the real reasons actually for coupling a country together in ways that didn't really make sense was essentially to ensure that the resultant nation-state entity would forever be sort of at war with itself. And so it's the basic concept of divide and rule, right? So if there's a cohesive country, it's going to find ways to improve its lot in life. It's eventually going to, become independent of you. But if it's, half of the country is sort of, broadly speaking, west facing, socially liberal, it's looking for economic, and then the other half of the country is like, facing toward the Middle East. It's like extremely conservative Islamic, and the two half basically don't get along. And they basically exist as two different countries. In fact, the northern half of Nigeria actually has a separate legal penal code. So actually, it's one country with two laws, two
strands. That's like an Islamic code.
Exactly.
Lagos, I would assume, is the more western facing that Lagos state. Okay. Is that more Christian or?
Generally speaking, yes. I mean, there are Muslims in the south as well, but the way Islam was introduced into Nigeria's south is very different to the way it was introduced into the north. So it was introduced to the north via conquest, via violence. It was introduced to the south by trade. So the two Islams, if you like, are very different.
In one, it was forced on, and the other one, it was willfully incorporated.
Exactly.
So what do you think the near future holds for this situation? Not much?
If I were being pessimistic, I would say it would end where it usually tends to end in Africa, which is one huge brawl. However, nobody wants to see that happen. I certainly don't want to see that happen. So what I hope will happen is that the Nigerian establishment will realize how dangerous the tinderbox it is playing with is, and will eventually sort of start to because that there will be some adults in the room basically who will do something about the situation, because basically you have a religiously and ethnically divided country being led by a retired or active drug criminal who has, well-documented links with the underworld, continues to have well-documented links with organized crime.
Oh, what's his continued documented links?
So, for example, when he was the governor of Lagos, his whole idea for expanding the tax revenue, the tax base of Lagos, was basically to incorporate street thugs into the revenue collection infrastructure of Lagos. So if you're entering a bus, like a public bus in Lagos, the people who you see some people who they're always harassing the drivers and whatnot. They have ticket booklets, and the driver has to pay a certain amount. It's extortion, but it's been sort of semi-formalized because there's a proportion of that revenue going to the state government, and this is officially sanctioned, right? So basically the street criminals were basically incorporated into the apparatus of state. They're given uniforms now, and they've been given powers. You can't touch them, right? So you have people who are known to be actual, gang leaders, who are almost like above the police. Now that's what he did in Lagos, and now that he's president, this has been elevated to national level, to federal level.
Oh, wow.
So it's an issue.
Yeah, so there would have to be some consensus of the elites behind the scenes, and they would move to remove him. They would pressure the Supreme Court or the military to remove him. Maybe?
Yeah, because barring that, if he's allowed to just because the reason he's so dangerous is because he genuinely does not actually have any strategic plan for governing the country. He's literally just there to expand his empire, if you like. He's there to eat. That's it.
Would you consider Nigeria an oligarchy like Russia?
To an extent. To an extent it is. However, unlike Russia, the extent to which the state has the capacity to actually control certain things is quite limited, because Russia has genuine state capacity. Nigeria not so much. So, for example, when it comes to things like surveillance, the Russians are way, centuries ahead. So it's not quite on the same level, but generally speaking, there is a tiny group of people who control the most important sectors of the economy and who basically operate it as a closed system of patronage. So if you want to be, you could probably become comfortable in Nigeria by working hard. But if you want to become wealthy, if you want to become super rich, there's no Elon Musk story. There's no
most of the billionaires are in businesses that are connected to the state in some way.
Exactly. You need state permission, you need state patronage, you need state intervention, basically, to become a billionaire. You don't become a billionaire by working hard in Nigeria, basically.
Wow. Okay, that's a great overview, and I'm going to work on this and put together a story, and I'll send it to you. And I'd like to keep our relationship going. We can talk about some more stuff. So I'll keep up with your Substack. Tell them where they can get in touch with you.
So you can. My platform is westafricaweekly.substack.com. My Twitter handle is at David Hundeyin, which is also my Instagram handle and my Facebook handle as well. My website is davidhundeyin.com. The one thing I should have mentioned, which is a very important thing, which you may not be aware of, and I'm going to share a link with you, is shortly after the election. So in the process of putting the story together, I sent FOIAs to the DEA, IRS, FBI, and they had initially told me that due to privacy concerns, they're not going to release this information. Now, after the election, which he apparently won, he was obviously no longer a private individual. He's a public official now. So, basically, in conjunction with a guy called Aaron Greenspan, who runs a website called plainsights.org, we sent FOIAs again, and they rejected the FOIAs again, and so we went to court. So we sued 6 different U.S. government agencies: the DEA, IRS, FBI, the State Department, U.S. attorneys, and the CIA. because there were whispers that potentially he was a U.S. foreign intelligence asset.
Yeah.
So and kind of unexpectedly we won. So I think this was September 11, the most recent filing in court. All 6 agencies said that they're going to.
Oh, you mean like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. So all 6 agencies made a filing in court that they're going to release the documents they have on him. The FBI specifically said that they have identified 2,500 pages of relevant material. So which leads me to question, what on earth has this guy been up to that his FBI file is 2,500 pages? That would be very interesting.
Lot more than just laundering $1 million.
Exactly. So they said by the end of October they're gonna release it at a rate of 500 pages a month, starting before the end of October.
And where are you kind of laying low, or where are you at?
I am laying low. Yes.
Oh, because we don't want to say where you're at, but would you feel a little uncomfortable being in Nigeria?
Uncomfortable because I'm actually under political asylum. So I actually fled Nigeria in 2020.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Okay, wow, so you entered a different country under political asylum because of other work, or this work, or all your work?
My work in general, because I tend to be that guy who takes on the stories that no one else wants to touch, really.
Wow, I bet. So when did you get involved? Well, let's get into your background, because you have a quite impressive background. Like, what's your background?
Okay, so do you mean my background in journalism in terms of stories that
your personal background?
Right. Okay. So I guess I started off in investigative journalism in 2019, thereabouts. So I've been in and around the journalism space since 2015, but I started sort of hardcore investigative journalism back in 2019. I was working with a platform called NewswireNGR.com, and I was there between like August 2019 and like May 2021. In 2021, I was one of the 12 people selected to be part of the Substack local program. I don't know if you've heard of Substack.
Yeah, I use it all. That's where I read your article, and I have some other journalist friends that are on it.
Yeah, so there was a fellowship called Substack Local, like a funding program, which 12 writers and journalists from around the world were chosen. And I was one of the 12. I was the only one from Africa who was chosen. So
very impressive.
So my Substack newsletter, which is called West Africa Weekly, that became sort of my signature platform. That's where my long form investigative work goes. I've done a bunch of other work. I've been on CNN, I've been on Al Jazeera, I've been on the Africa Reports. I used to work with Channels TV, which is a local TV station back home in Nigeria. I was nominated for the US IBLP, the International Business Leadership Program, back in 2019. So I've done a ton of other work, but West Africa Weekly sort of where investigative work, like long form work, really sort of took its pride in place. So that started off in mid-2021. So when I started off on West Africa Weekly, my mission was basically to go after the Nigerian system in a way that no one else had ever done before, because I thought that the practice of journalism was pretty stale, was pretty staged, in Nigeria, and I thought I could do better, basically. So I felt that this would be the platform which would be sort of the conceptual love child of zero hedge, vice, just basically rock and roll, like heavy metal journalism, if there's such a thing. That was the idea behind West Africa Weekly. So I sort of consciously made my brand to go after the stories that no one else likes to touch, like basically stories everyone else is afraid of, and forbidden stories, if you like. So stories about people's backgrounds, powerful people's backgrounds, which they would like to remain hidden. stories about people linked to terror, you know, stories about very deep-seated government corruption, that sort of thing. So that's pretty much what I've been doing since 2021 now.
All right, my great and wonderful people. I believe say una take una time to listen to that very interview. We did very sorry say we need to just leave everything for you to watch because I believe by now a lot of Nigerians, both home and abroad, don't try their best to make sure say they bring all the evidence when it be say when it be say it dey for inside this country need to see or work with. And it is very unfortunate, say, even in the midst of all this abundant evidence of the person of Amebola Tinibu, a lot of us still turn deaf ear and blind eyes. They follow these people like Momo. No problem. The end will surely tell. Time the thought say na it be the revealer of all things. All of us dey here will dey wait. The end will definitely reveal every man's decision. All right, now so talking concerning this matter, we'll leave you to share your own opinion with us in the comment section, even as we draw the line of this very broadcast. Say we'll see you again when we see you. Remember, we love you all. Bye bye.